All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, unfortunately in life, separations or divorces can get a bit messy, especially if the union was not based in something of real substance in the first place. We all know that Kyrie Irving demanded a trade from the Cleveland Cavaliers back during the summer of 2017. The Boston Celtics were not one of the teams on the list, but he was traded there, so he was forced to make the best of a very rough situation. He tried to talk about how his father had roots in Boston and so on and so forth. His mother and his father first came together in that city. His father attended, I believe it was Boston University. He tried to act as if he was a prodigal son returning back to Beantown. Well, as usual, whenever someone is somewhere or with someone else that they never really wanted to be with in the first place, eventually that one thread that starts to hang in the tapestry is going to be pulled out and the entire garment is going to be rent asunder. That is what is occurring with Mr. Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics, who basically seem to now be in a war of who cares about the other person or the other entity less. Kyrie decided that he was not going to show up for the exit interviews, which to me is a major sign that he's not coming back and that he just wants to get the hell up out of that environment. And now, according to Stephen A. Smith, the Boston Celtics do not want Kyrie Irving back. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Kyrie's days in Boston may officially be over after the Celtics get bounced by the Bucks. Irving has a player option for next season, but he's expecting to opt out, making him an unrestricted free agent. Kyrie was asked about his big summer after the game last night.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just trying to make it back to Boston first.
Yeah, there's some white girls waiting for you in Boston. That's why you're trying to make it back there.
Safely. You get to see my family, decompress, do what human beings do.
Plenty of people here are speculating about your future, and certainly this summer. Did uncertainty over that weigh on you in any way?
Of course it did. It obviously weighed on this dude over the course of this season. Unfortunately, both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant did not follow the Kawhi Leonard paradigm. That being, do not allow the media to believe that there is an open channel of communication between yourself and them on any topic other than basketball. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant never understood that over the course of this season, and the issues that they had when it comes to discerning what the motivations of ancillary forces are almost cost their teams. Fortunately for Kevin Durant, he's on the most talented team in the NBA, so they were able to overcome it, and beyond that, he was not expected to be the leader. Steph Curry was, and Steph Curry was a stabilizing factor. With the Boston Celtics, there was not a stabilizing factor to offset Kyrie Irving's confusion when it comes to many of the tactics that were utilized against him by the media. The brother came off a bit simple-minded. Now, due to the fact that Kawhi Leonard knows that the less access people have to him, the better, especially when he's in such an affluent position, such an advantageous position, it has stopped him from being involved in any notions of crippling the team. I mean, basically, not only is Kawhi Leonard a free agent, he's in the same position as Kyrie and Kevin Durant, but he also sat out. He willingly sat out 20-plus games this season. Imagine if Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant did that. Everyone would have said, oh, they're only concerned about themselves. They're only concerned about the free agency process. But they would be saying that because Kyrie and Kevin Durant are way too transparent. Kawhi Leonard is not transparent. So people don't know quite how to approach him.
In this series?
No.
We're going to start with the player perspective first. That would be you, Jared Dudley. What should Kyrie's priority be this offseason?
Kyrie Irving's priority should be to make sure that he can go somewhere where the front office and the players are actually going to be a proper fit for him, because that clearly was not the case in Boston. So what do I mean by that? I mean, he needs to be on a team surrounded by other players who are in the similar age group and are at a similar point in their career as he is. There's a major difference between being 26, 27 in the NBA and being 19 or 20 years old. At 19 or 20 years old, you're still trying to work your way up towards your first big contract. At Kyrie's level right now, he's making $30+ million a year, I believe. So he's already won a championship. He's already won an All-Star game MVP. He's already been like a 4 or 5-time All-Star. All he's thinking about is championships. When you have kids on your team, no matter how talented they are, 19, 20, 21 years old, they're trying to make their first All-Star team. They want to look at the box score and see that they're averaging 20 points a game. That's what they're thinking about. So Kyrie has to have the right mix around him, wherever that is. And I'm not quite sure if there's a team in the NBA currently configured that would fit him very well. I actually think, and Jared Dudley is going to bring this up later on in the segment, that Kyrie Irving should think about re-signing with the Boston Celtics, seeing if he can restore that rapport with them. I doubt if that's going to happen. Or at least sit back and wait and see if they're able to pull off a trade for Anthony Davis. If they're able to do that, then maybe you could open up the channels of communication with them again, because I think that the dynamic will be very different. If the Celtics are able to trade for Davis and send away Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and whoever else was confused and put in a position where they were not quite sure what their roles were, then maybe Kyrie could consider coming back because he has a great rapport with Anthony Davis. If not, then you leave.
Winnie, I think Boston's a great situation for them. They have the assets to go get another superstar player to revamp the team, maybe make a couple trades, because obviously you have a lot of young guys and the chemistry. But for him, it seems like he wants to go to the big city, New York. You obviously have between the Nets and the Knicks. But if I was Kyrie, me personally, you have a good organization that you already have right there. You have one of the best GMs, one of the best coaches, one of the best fan bases.
Does Kyrie Irving believe that the Boston Celtics have one of the best coaches and one of the best GMs? I'm not quite sure if he believes that.
I'm staying there and I'm retooling. And I think this is his first year trying to be a leader. It's a big jump from being a second guy to LeBron to having to lead a franchise. And I think that was some growing pains and something that he can learn on. But it's a big task. It's from Robin to Batman. It's different. It's different personality, and you're dealing with a younger generation that are playing video games and how you have to relate to them.
Knock it off, bro. Video game playing goes back 30 years. This notion that the younger generation is the only quote-unquote generation that plays video games, that's nonsense. Cats have been paralyzed behind that video game controller for the last 30-plus years.
That locker room, and I think that there's a lot for him to learn, and I think that this is a huge learning step. And instead of just getting out, I would stay there. But if not, man, there's a lot of people that want him, including us.
Stephen A?
I think we saw Kyrie's last game in Boston.
I'm pretty sure we have as well.
I don't think that he really wants to be there anymore. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think the Boston Celtics really want him that bad. I think they'd much rather take his dollars and give Rozier less than half that and keep him than
I agree with that.
Than pay Kyrie max dollars, which is what his talents are going to command.
I think that the only way that the Celtics would even think about bringing Kyrie back is if they could pull off that Anthony Davis trade. If they can't, they're going to tell Kyrie to have a nice day.
And bring Kyrie on board. I think this situation, in terms of how this season unfolded, because even though I disagree in terms of what the priority was that led to Boston's demise, I'm not absolving Kyrie Irving in any way from his role in their demise. And to culminate it with the performance that he had against the Milwaukee Bucks is so glaring, although no one would...
Kyrie's shooting was so bad in the last 3 games of that series that it almost made me wonder after a while, is this dude purposefully missing shots so that he can get the hell up out of Boston as soon as possible? Because I've never seen Kyrie Irving miss as many mid-range jump shots as he was missing the last 3 games of that series.
Question his talent nor his greatness. In terms of being an individual talent, I think the way he's looked at now is that...
I mean, look at how badly he missed that jump shot. I mean, that barely touched the opposite side of the rim. I mean, come on. Kyrie does not shoot like that.
That he can't be the number one option on your franchise if you're trying to win a championship. He can't be the quote-unquote leader because he hasn't proven he can do that yet.
Well, look, we already know Kyrie Irving is not a leader. He's just not. He's a great weapon. He had his chance to lead this season, and he did not do a very good job of it. I will say this in his quote-unquote defense. I don't think that his coach was authoritative enough in establishing what the pecking order was. And that's something that the coach has to do to alleviate some of the stress that would be on a leader of a team that has expectations as high as the expectations that Boston had coming into this season.
There's a reason he's been talking to LeBron James. There's a reason he's been talking to various guys that have starred in the NBA over the years who have been in leadership positions, because he's realized that it's far tougher than he ever imagined. So he'll go someplace else, whether it's one of the New York teams or LA or someplace like that, to get his money. But I think that right now, the belief about Kyrie is that he is a superstar basketball talent.
Well, yes, I was about to cut you off and say, no, he's not a superstar player. He's a superstar talent. but he's only a star player. Once again, there are only 4 superstars in the NBA right now. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is fighting for the opportunity to be considered a 5th superstar level player. Right now, he's just outside. He's knocking on the door. Coming into the playoffs this year, I would say that James Harden and Giannis were about to knock on the door to ask to be let into that room of quote-unquote superstar players. Because my definition of a superstar is very, very, there's a lot of restrictions on it. It's very exclusive. I'm not just going to call everybody a superstar because they can average 25 points a game. No. To me, a superstar player has to be someone who not only puts up the numbers, but he's so impactful in the regular season and the postseason that he's won an MVP award in either one of those 2 spheres or both spheres. That really is what a superstar player is someone who's won a regular season MVP and a postseason MVP.
But not someone who should be the number 1 option in the face of your franchise if you're trying to win a championship. And I don't think anybody knows that better than Boston. So I don't think Boston is any longer an option for him or the Boston Celtics.
Kyrie's got to get his mental right. That's what the offseason should be about for him. Look, just as Mark Jackson pointed to Embiid and said his skills, I'm not talking about greatness, what he's accomplished, but his skills and his size and his girth and his, with his ability to shoot, which isn't great, but it's good for a guy that size, post moves, defend, da-da-da-da. Embiid is as skilled as anyone who ever played the position. You understand that?
I'm not quite sure about that. Embiid is a very skilled center, but to say that he's more skilled than Hakeem Olajuwon, I'm not even quite sure if Embiid is more skilled than Patrick Ewing. I think that he's on his way. He has a ways to go, though, when it comes to skill set. I would not call him Hakeem Olajuwon yet, though.
Kyrie Irving, when you really think about skills, is in the conversation for most skilled player who ever lived, and he's very athletic.
Well, at least offensively, I would say that Kyrie has most of the components that you would ask for. But I do think that mentally, there's something off kilter there because he has the mindset of a shooting guard, but he should be considering himself more of a point guard.
He can shoot the lights out from 3. He can finish in the paint under the rim. I would say he's the number 1 finisher in the history of the game in the paint under the rim. He is an excellent passer when he chooses to be. His handles, probably the greatest of all time, like Iverson 2.0, because he can build on what Iverson did.
Well, actually, Kyrie Irving's handle is way better than Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson had an overrated handle. A lot of his fans are going to get upset by that. It's okay. But Kyrie Irving's handle is on the level of the old Isaiah Thomas. That's why I consider the standard for great handles in the history of the NBA. And when I say great handles, I'm talking about of players who could actually play and dominate a game. Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving, and other players along those lines. Of course, Rod Strickland had a great handle, but I don't consider him a dominant player per se, even though he led the NBA in assists a couple of seasons.
So Kyrie, why aren't you a better player? That's mental. It's not just leadership. I had a very smart executive,
i.e. Daryl Morey. Whenever you hear Max Kellerman talking about he spoke to a quote-unquote very smart executive in the NBA, he's talking about Daryl Morey. Because we know that Max Kellerman basically acts as a dispensary of many of Daryl Morey's bullshit infatuations with analytics. That's why you always see Max Kellerman on the show talking about how the Rockets play in the perfect style of offense of any NBA team, blah, blah, blah.
We were communicating the other day. He said, you can't be a great player if you take more than half your shots from the least efficient part of the court and you don't even convert them at a high enough clip.
That's Daryl Morey. It can't be anybody else. No one else would say something like that.
Like Kobe Bryant, when I was arguing Stephen A. about Kawhi under pressure versus Kobe. Kobe is the greatest bad shot maker ever. So everyone remembers him as making these incredible shots under pressure. But in fact, those are really hard shots to convert. If you convert them better than everyone else, you still ain't going to convert them a lot, right?
Well, that's why Kobe Bryant, once again, is the most overrated all-time great player in the history of the NBA. Because he was so inefficient. But when he actually did make shots, it was like, wow, that might be the greatest shot I've ever seen. Like, Kobe Bryant would make the most unbelievable shots you've ever seen. Like, turn around, fade away, left-handed three-pointers on the baseline. Like, did this dude just, in the words of John Starks, did this dude just did this?
Kawhi just gets himself good shots. So he converts them more often, even though they're not as miraculous. Kyrie is like Kobe. He does incredible things. Oh my God, did you see that? But that's not as good as a cat who could just go get himself a high percentage shot. And here's the crazy thing about Kyrie. He's totally capable of it.
Agreed, and that also parlays into your contention about Kawhi Leonard being a better player than Kobe Bryant, which I think is Max Kellerman's true argument. Not just that Kawhi Leonard is a better clutch player than Kobe, but that he's an overall better player than Kobe. But Max knows he can't say that quite yet. But when you watch Kawhi play, the way in which he searches out the most proficient and efficient ways to score and also play defense, I mean, it is what it is. It's really a discussion that people will have to have in 10 years.
He can get to wherever he wants on the court. He got the best. I just said he had the best handles ever. He's fast. He finishes well. He shoots it. So if for him, the priority should be get his head together. Play the right way.
I'm not quite sure if Kyrie Irving will ever be able to get his head together, because when you have that spirit of delusion, you're always going to think that someone is trying to stop you from being the best that you can be. And that's one of the reasons why the all-time greats tend to be the most delusional, because they see things in themselves that other people don't see in them. So they're able to transcend the doubt and the negativity.
He is playing in it so inefficiently that he's taking maybe the most skills ever, and he's something less than an MVP player. And in fact,
what Kyrie's missing is wherewithal. He's missing consideration. When I say consideration, I'm talking about for his teammates. I think that Kyrie Irving underestimates the power of empowering others. I think that he underestimates that. I believe that all he sees is glorification through scoring. I don't think that he grasps the power of empowering others and making them feel confident in what they're doing in their role. That's the way that you make a team a great team. By taking away a lot of your self-glorification and your self-aggrandizement, looking at your fellow teammate and telling them, I'm going to turn you from a 12-point per game guy to an 18 points per game guy. Jason Tatum, I'm going to take you from a 17 points per game guy to a 22 points per game guy. I want you to take that trip to the All-Star game with me on All-Star weekend. That's how you get your teammates to become better versions of themselves. And I think that Kyrie Irving, he's missing that. As soon as you hear a guy say, well, I took 22 shots and I only made 7 and I should have took 30 shots, that right there tells you that he's not a real leader. And he's not someone who should be running the point.
that's one part. And the other part is what you guys talk about. His teammates don't like to play with him. It's all about the mental for Kyrie.
Steve, I have a question for you, because you see guys like Harden that have struggled in the playoffs before. You remember the Spurs series, and then over the course of their career they get better at it. Now we're looking at Harden now to deliver. You don't think someone like Kyrie, where this is really his first year because he was hurt last year, to have to deal with this, you don't think that if he possibly stayed, or even the next team he goes to and he's the number one guy, that he can't mold and each year become better to eventually be a number 1A, 1B with another star player to win a championship?
No.
He can do that, but once again, Boston would have to trade for Anthony Davis. They would have to clean house because the locker room is too toxic. They would have to let just about everybody go and rebuild from the ground floor with just Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Anthony Davis, and maybe another big free agent that they may be able to sign. Who knows? But they would have to start from the ground floor.
No, I'm not saying that he can't be. I'm saying that you know this better than me as somebody that has been in a position to negotiate contracts, etc., etc. I'm telling you what the league is thinking about him at this moment in time and what will be held against him. So what I'm saying to you is that even though I look at his talent and I believe and I echo everything that Max said, and I'm listening to you in terms of what he can be, the bottom line is the negotiations are this summer, and the backdrop is what just happened to you against Milwaukee and what happened to you throughout this season. So those things are going to be held against them.
Absolutely.
Because there's going to be the stigma that's used.
Stigma? What the hell is that? I noticed Stephen A. Smith has a very difficult time pronouncing multisyllabic words that end in an A. He does that same shit with Rob Pelinka. He said Rob Pelinker.
To somewhat question what his viability is and whether or not he's the right guy for your franchise. You'll want him there, but you'll want someone else with him because you'll feel better about it based on what you saw this year. That's all I'm saying.
No, very fair. And I think the one thing with Boston compared to any other team is the assets. With that, Memphis could be unprotected in 2 years, having the Clippers pick. I think even Sacramento's pick is the Kings, right? They can go get someone. And so that, and with Danny Ainge, I mean, I think we all agree, man, when it comes to his drafting skills and being able to make trades, he's one of the best in the business. I just see it could be a mistake. I mean, obviously Kyrie.
Well, we know that Danny Ainge has a very good relationship with the new GM of the New Orleans Pelicans, David Griffin. We'll see if Adam Silver puts the kibosh on any potential trade there, because as I've already stated, I believe that David Griffin was strategically placed as the GM of the Pelicans by Adam Silver and the owner of the Pelicans so that they can, grease the skids for this trade of Anthony Davis to the Lakers. We'll find out.
Kyrie,
That's why you might not need Kyrie, because you have the other parts already in place with potentially 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, Jared, I'm surprised at this take by you.
Right, but come on, Stephen A. Smith. All this, we have 4 first-round picks. In the NBA, we know what wins championships in the NBA. You need to have coaches to develop talent, but you need star players. If you want to rebuild and do a total rebuild, no problem. But then you're going to have to start from the ground floor, let Kyrie go. Don't talk about Anthony Davis anymore. But if you're trying to win now, then you have Kyrie Irving, or you try to re-sign Kyrie Irving, you trade for Anthony Davis and see where things go.
I'm surprised this take by you because, there's no coming back from what just happened, is there? Isn't it pretty clear that for Tatum to develop, who looks like he could be the centerpiece offensively of a really, really good team, for these young cats to develop, Kyrie's got to get out of there, right? It looks like he don't want to be there.
He makes $50 more million if he stays.
Max, that's what
I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you, Steven. I'm saying I'm surprised by Jared's take.
Well, the reason why is because you could trade Tatum for Anthony Davis.
Absolutely.
So what then? So my thing is you need superstars to win in this league.
Ding.
You lose a superstar, you sign Rozier to 60, 70 million, you still need 1 or 2 guys to get over the hump.
And I promise you, if they pay Rozier, Rozier's going to get exposed very badly next year. I like Rozier. He's a nice little player. He's a great backup. That's what he is. He's a great backup. But he's not a starter on a team that has championship aspirations. He makes terrible decisions, especially on a fast break.
Or he could just go to the other New York team and they could build around him there and he could...
Which is what I think is going to happen. I believe that Kyrie Irving is going to end up on the New York Knicks with KD. I'm just hearing it from too many different sources. Unless KD just changes his mind one morning and says, I'm coming back to Golden State. But I do think that they both will end up in New York. But anyway, peace.